Film with family. They love the family, they love the movies.
Hello and welcome to Film with Family. My name is Zach.
And I'm Austin.
And we are two cousins who love to talk about movies. And today we're going to do our season finale, if you can believe it.
Our grand finale.
Grand finale.
With the Grand Master, Marty.
We took to the movie theaters to see the new movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. And we didn't go alone. Today on the podcast, we have my sister, Jasmine Zweifler, and my cousin, Drew Pruitt.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here as well.
Great to have you both back. Both returning champions of the first season of this podcast.
Oh, we won.
You won.
Oh,
Yeah.
In a way, I mean, Drew, you were obviously the original guest.
Uh-huh.
You were the genesis of this podcasty.
The OG, the original guest.
And I was the best guest with the best movie.
Yeah. Well, Jasmine, you'll be happy to know that of all the cousins, your episode, the Fast X episode, got the most downloads.
Nice.
Oh my God. You like me. You really like me.
We're doing the Film with Family Awards now.
Yes. So let's pull up the stats. You know.
Yeah. I want to know who got the least downloads and shame them.
All right. So these are the final cumulative total since February, since we started, all the way to this very moment and end of October as we're recording this. Top episodes of all time. In number five, Into the Wild with my dad.
Wow.
With our dad.
Good job, Glenn.
At 108 downloads, 108 people downloaded this, or somebody listened to it several times. Coming in a close fourth with 109 downloads. Barbie with Rian.
A very heartfelt episode.
Can you feel that Kenergy? Reenergy.
Re-energy.
Well done, Rian. You did a great episode. Love the episode.
Yeah. And in third place with us right now, Jasmine with her Fast X app.
Thank you.
Gasolina.
Oh God, let's play Gasolina right now.
Jasmina.
Jasmina.
In second place, Liz Zweifler with Moonstruck with 116 downloads. Wow.
No way.
Oh, wow.
And in the
Wow.
top slot, it should be no surprise, the Master Chief, Steve Downs, 2001: A Space Odyssey with 137 downloads.
Wow.
Well
that
done,
one's not
Chief.
even fair. That's not even fair.
Celebrity notoriety, not even a real thing.
Exactly.
But we should note our YouTube has different stats, and
It's true.
Troy wins in a landslide the RoboCop episode, over 1,000 views on YouTube.
So
Yeah.
weird.
Oh, well done, Troy.
I want to give an honorable mention to the episode that you dropped this week, the week they were recording the Rocky Horror episode with Brie and Sean. That one was incredible. It was great for me. That's one of my absolute favorite movies. One of my favorite things to see live. I go and see it with the shadow cast and dress up and do the whole thing. And I was bumming that none of you guys had ever, put on corsets and high heels and fishnets and got the V on your forehead for virgin and threw rice. And nothing compares to that. I've done it so many times, considering doing it again this week even. What a great episode. I wanted to throw so many things into the pot. You guys did great.
I have done that. I went to the music box and I did that, but I went with a friend of mine at the time, and she I had no idea what I was going to be in for, and Austin enlightened me. So I had told her that I'd seen it before, which I definitely had.
Oh no!
Totally lied because I was like, I'm not gonna go on stage. I was terrified.
I blew that because I was like, like Rocky Horror Live is like you have to do stuff. It's all audience participation. You're like, really? And I was like, yeah, I think even like there's something that happens to people who haven't ever done it before. So I kind of spilled the beans, and so then Drew
got scared.
Yeah, 100% shit my pants. I was like, yes, I've done this before. I fessed up to it immediately after, but I was like, yeah, I wasn't going to do all that fun stuff. I apologize.
So, wow, 40 episodes ish.
Close to 40.
Putting out an episode almost every week. It's been quite a ride. We've learned a lot about our family. We've learned a lot about films. And now it's time for a little break.
Yeah. We just thought, we can't keep this up. We're running ragged here.
Oh,
this
stop.
This podcast is slowly killing us, so we had to take a break.
Oh, stop.
Hey, it's tough work. I mean, we put out over like an hour and a half of content every week, finally edited.
Yeah, Austin's obsessive with his editing. He spends many hours trying to find the right clip for the right moment.
Top-notch editing. Top-notch.
Hey, well, Zach, I couldn't do it without you. So,
yeah,
what a wonderful thing that we've done here. And if you are looking forward to season 2, just let us know. We get a lot of feedback from our family, but we don't know who's out there listening to this thing. What are we just screaming into the void here?
Talk to us.
Talk to us. We want to be your friend. So yeah, I mean, if you want to support, we have our Patreon now. You can support us on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/filmwithfamily.
We haven't hashed out what the Patreon's really going to be, but we might give you some goodies on there.
Or we might not. Just give us money, please.
Don't expect anything, but please, we would love the money, and then we'll definitely make more content.
Yeah, if you start paying us, maybe we'll give you some. Yeah.
So this is killing us. We need money.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we work hard here. We toil day and night.
It's a labor of love, you dumb fucks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Zach, like we're gonna take like 2 weeks off and then be like, see some movie that we really want to talk about. And we're just be like,
you got to talk about Poor Things. You got to talk about the new Yorgos.
Yeah, it does look really good, and Austin's seen it.
I saw it, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
See, you want to talk about it.
Drew have already seen the goddamn Boy and the Heron over here, making me jealous.
Yeah, we got a lot under our belt already, but I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of these movies are going to be talked about during Oscar season next year. So I think we're going to have plenty of time to talk about these. We got a lot of good movies coming out in the next two months. So we got what we got? We got Ferrari, we got Poor Things, you got
Napoleon.
Got a big 4-hour Ridley Scott dump on Apple Plus.
Saltburn looks kind of intriguing.
Saltburn.
I'm intrigued.
Barry Keoghan. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Bike Riders was supposed to come out, but it's been pushed because of the strike.
It's got the Elvis guy in it. What's his name?
Austin.
Austin Butler.
Austin. How could I forget Austin? One of our famous Austins.
Butler. Yeah.
The
so
Butler did it.
A lot of good movies coming out. And, if you want us to talk about one of those movies, let us know. Sign up for the Patreon. Send us an email at filmwithfamilypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what we should be talking about.
I have an idea for a movie I want you guys to talk about.
Let's hear it.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Somebody's anxious. I get it. Okay.
I'm excited.
My gut's about to burst.
before we get into the movie, I do want to do some general Martin Scorsese talk
Yes.
because I've been doing some research, or not research, just preparation for this episode. I
Mm-hmm.
watched Mean Streets and I watched The Departed. That was my
Nice.
first
Mm.
watch of Mean Streets. It was a rewatch for The Departed for me. But I was just like, I need to dip back into Marty, get ready for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say I like both of those movies. I'd
Yeah.
say Mean Streets I liked a little bit more than Departed. It's like his first collaboration with Robert De Niro. De
Yeah.
Niro's looking real hot, and he's playing a guy named Johnny Boy. He's really crazy. He's all over the place. I'd recommend that one. Departed, obviously, Leo's all over that. I totally forgot that like Matt Damon is like half of that movie, and I totally was getting your take that Damon kind of sucks.
Thank
It
you.
was, it was the performance that made me realize that
Agreed. 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 Agreed.
I'm not saying I hate every Damon performance because that's not true, but I feel like the best Damon performances lean into how he kind of sucks, like True Grit. He plays like, you know, just like a dope and kind of like he sucks in that movie, but in a good way. But yeah, I just he's not very memorable. He's not very good in The Departed. You remember Jack Nicholson, you remember DiCaprio, but Damon's in a lot of
Wahlberg.
that
Hell
movie.
yeah.
Even Alec
Wahlberg is great in it.
Baldwin's really funny in it, but
Mm-hmm.
Damon he kind of brings it down.
Downsized, baby. Downsized.
So yeah, I just want to hear you guys how you feel about Marty. I love Marty. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of his movies, but he's made so many movies that I'm also missing a lot of his filmography. But I
Mm.
feel like I've hit the big ones mostly.
I feel like Martin Scorsese can be a little bit more hit and hit, mostly hit, but there's some misses in there for me. I recently last week watched Casino for the
Mm.
first time. I had never seen that before.
Whoa.
No, never. I thought it would be a complete humdinger for
Mm.
me because I love so much of everything going on in the movie. There's a lot of fat I felt could be trimmed from that movie. I liked a lot of stuff.
A lot of voiceover.
Yeah, too much music, soundtrack kind of stuff. Felt like that was a little distracting. Didn't quite work for me.
Like too much
Um,
montages kind of thing.
yeah, and I felt like Joe Pesci's performance wasn't quite what I was hoping, to be
Hmm.
honest. Maybe controversial opinion. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff I liked. Surprisingly, significant amount of stuff I didn't. But my favorite Martin Scorsese by a mile is actually Gangs of New York.
Wow. Okay, this is a
Yeah.
blind spot for me in his filmography. There's like,
As in, haven't seen it.
well, I've seen it, but I've never fully registered it, I think. It's just not one that I've like gone back to. Like I think I saw it, when it first came out, and I don't really have a very vivid memory of it. But that movie and Silence, I think, are like the two movies that I like. I really can't talk to that well. But yeah, Goodfellas, Casino, King of Comedy. I know these movies like the back of my hand.
Back of my hand.
What about After Hours?
Love After Hours.
I saw that one like last year, a couple of years ago, and I thought it was great. Well, yeah, I want to hear Drew's Scorsese takes. Like, are you a Goodfellas on the top of the pile kind of guy?
Well, yeah, of course. Anybody who doesn't say that is a loon.
You're calling my sister a loon
I'm
on
not
the
calling
pod
it-
to her face?
might be indirectly calling people. No, I mean, if I had to put him up there, like I think my favorite movies, I don't think they're his best, but they're my favorite. Like Wolf of Wall Street and Gangs of New York also are my favorite. But yeah, Goodfellas above them all. But Wolf of Wall Street is just a really fun ride, and it's just like a fucking explosion of serotonin in your brain, and just like the most fun. And just terrible people, but you don't care how terrible. The more terrible they are, the more fun it is. Like it's just great. It's like not really apologizing for itself. It's just like, yeah, like this is this is kind of what these people were like. And it's
Yeah,
just, yeah, it
they're
doesn't really
gross.
have to pull any punches with it, like, yeah. And I feel like in a lot of these movies, like at least in Leo's movies, he always has like some like what feels like almost improv, like super like racist or like just politically incorrect tirade that he goes on. It feels really improv. Like, I mean, like
It is. I mean,
Yeah.
like he no
comes
he
from a real place somewhere. I feel like he's
Yeah, I did it on Django Unchained too.
he did it in
Like,
Django, yeah, and I mean we're gonna get to Killers, but of course he did it in Killers, and then like also on Wolf of Wall Street when they're talking about like the little person and they're like just like going off, it's just terrible. I don't know. I feel like I don't know where that comes from, but I guess I do enjoy that.
I mean, that stuff's in like all of Scorsese's movies. Like a lot of his characters are just awful racist people. Like I know in Mean Streets, just casual racism towards black people, and also in Departed, they're just throwing slurs around like it's nothing.
Like it's nothing. It's water, and I feel like I think like I think he's trying to be as honest as he can be about like and I think he comes from a place where he's seen a lot of this stuff. So I feel like a lot of it is very like I don't know if it's autobiographical, but I feel like he's probably seen a lot of that in his life, and he can kind of express it in a way that it's like, yeah, this is what these folks were like. This is what this was.
Yeah.
He likes movies about despicable people.
Really, yeah, and like he frames it very well, and it's kind of like I don't know. It's like I guess you could argue that he does glorify it in a way, but I feel like all of his stories end pretty harshly for these people. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, at one end you could say it does, and the other end you could say like this is what they got. And this is what was coming to them. Anyways, yeah, sorry to go off topic there, but Gangs of New York is one of my favorites. Wolf of Wall Street, amazing, but yeah, Goodfellas above them all.
Going back to what you were saying, Drew, about the improvisation, actually, a bunch of articles dropped yesterday because I guess Marty gave some quote, and I'm just going to be calling him Marty during this podcast because he's just
I'm going to call him Scorsese.
Mr. Martin Scorsese. Yeah, I guess Leo was improvising so much during the filming of this movie. There's a quote, every now and then Bob and I would look at each other and just roll our eyes a little bit. And we tell Leo, you don't need that dialogue. So the quote is DiCaprio's creative choices were so endless. And De Niro did not want to talk. Like he was like, I'm not adding any more dialogue to this because Leo's just been going off the handle so much. So you definitely picked up on that, right, Drew?
Wow.
But I think he does a great job, honestly. I think that the method pays off.
I think Leo's a good actor. I'll say it.
Yeah. I think he goes toe to toe with De Niro. I mean, I think it's they're pretty on the same level, especially in this.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a really good impression of Sling Blade. Like he nailed Sling Blade.
He brings a lot of that to the table. Absolutely.
A lot of frowning and scowling.
Mm-hmm.
Thrusting the jaw forward. Absolutely.
Dude, his grimace through this entire movie is really something else. And the teeth work, my God.
And can we talk about the teeth?
It's hard to watch.
Yeah,
so horrible.
Theo didn't do that. You know, he there was a makeup person who did the teeth. Anyways,
he didn't bust his teeth.
He didn't bust his teeth.
I read somewhere that Leo did his own teeth.
He cut his
Weird.
teeth. He cut his teeth with this one.
But yeah, it is important to say that Marty Scorsese has had these two main muses of his filmography. The first being De Niro, who I think this is his 10th De Niro movie.
Wow.
And then after that, he found DiCaprio, and this is his 6th DiCaprio collaboration. But this is the first time that they're together in the same Martin Scorsese movie. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
This could be Marty's last movie too. You know, it's like he says he wants to make more, but he's getting up there. You never know.
He seems pretty vital.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch interviews with Marty right now, he's as quick as a whip.
Yeah. No, he's at the top of his powers. I think he's in prime form.
He is on TikTok now. His daughter's on TikTok. And
Beautiful. I hope you guys all watched the clip that I sent you of his daughter,
Yes.
Francesca. She has a TikTok that heavily features her father. And we should play really quick this clip that's going viral right now. It's actually quite an amazing thing to watch because it's a first-person perspective of Scorsese talking to you as someone who would be auditioning for Martin Scorsese. And I don't know, it to me when I was watching it, I was like, wow, is this what it would really be like if he was directing me?
This feels kind of intense.
Wait, is this really happening right now?
Yeah. So let's play it because it is classic.
So I have, I've been working a long time making pictures, it turns out, almost 50 years. I had one muse for many, many years, 10 pictures made with Robert De Niro. Another muse, Leo DiCaprio, was extraordinary. Had 6 films with him so far. Over the years, I've worked with great actors, from Ellen Burstyn to Paul Newman, Michelle Pfeiffer to Margot Robbie, all these people. And I feel now that I need a change. I need to find something that I could take further.
It's a dog.
I've heard some extraordinary things about you. I don't want to embarrass you. I've heard some extraordinary things, and I think we might be able to work something out. Oscar,
Dog.
show me fear. Oscar,
Dog.
show me sadness. Love, show me love. Show me transcendence.
Dog.
Right now, Oscar, I want to push
Dog.
just a little bit more. I want to go a little further, a little further. I don't want to take you out of your comfort zone. I just want you to give me a little more.
Dog sits down.
Brilliant! Brilliant! You've got the role.
That smiley
He's a good
does it.
little actor,
You got the role.
that Marty.
So good. Yes, we are talking about Martin Scorsese's new film, Killers of the Flower Moon, based on David Grann's book, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI.
The Osage. They have the worst land possible. But they outsmarted everybody. The land had oil on it. Black gold. Money flows freely here now.
I do love that money, sir.
This wealth should come to us. Their time is over. It's just going to be another tragedy.
When this money started coming, we should have known it came with something else.
Dun dun dun.
Has anybody read the book here?
I read it.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Oh, I did.
Okay, so Jasmine,
Yes.
you will be our resident expert here. None of these dumb boys have read no book.
Ain't been to no Rocky horrors, ain't read no books. Y'all just sitting in your apartment, recording podcasts.
Yeah, acting like we know what we're talking about.
Yes.
But this is why we bring you on. And so give us an overview of the book, I guess, and then we can talk about, I guess, the book in comparison to the movie.
The book and the movie actually hew pretty closely together. There's not really too much diversion until about halfway through the book. The second half of the book focuses a lot more on the creation of the FBI. It takes place a lot more in Washington, D.C., deals a lot more with J. Edgar Hoover, deals a lot more with all these private investigators that you see sort of come into the town and meet their fate. And then, Jesse Plemons' character. So the second half of the book really is a lot more about what's going on in Washington, D.C., bureaucratic type weird stuff and sort of minutia having to do with that, a lot more so than stuff happening like in Oklahoma. So there's really not a lot that was in the book that you don't see in the movie with regard to like what is going on with our main characters and how things play out. But the second half of the book is not really touched on too much in the movie. You sort of forego that in favor of like delving a lot deeper into, you know, Molly and Ernest's relationship and the subtleties and, you know, Ernest's relationship with King.
Did you like the book? When did you read this book?
It was pretty recently. I was maybe like 6 months ago.
Okay. Like in preparation for the movie, kind of?
A little bit, yeah. I really liked it. It was a quick read. It was really, really well written, intriguing. The subject matter was something I was very interested in and didn't know anything about. So I blazed right through it. It's a good one.
Well, so the story is set in 1920s Oklahoma. Could you give us kind of the high level kind of synopsis before we go into the details?
Sure. So the deal is, you know, the Osage tribe lives in this part of Oklahoma and they find oil there. As a result, the tribe becomes extremely wealthy. You know, each of these people, members of the tribe, having an allotment, which includes, you know, land and a lot of money. And so in contrast to like what you think of in terms of like Native Americans living on reservations or whatever, especially at that time, these people are, you know, have absolutely the most fabulous fashions, newest cars, all of this stuff. And it's sort of an interesting, it just feels incongruous to like what we might think of. And super duper cool. They have white servants and mansions and all this stuff. And a lot of the times, though, because it's still America, the Native American people would have to have sort of white people be like sort of intermediaries between them and their money. You know, people who were sort of responsible for them, like caretakers, which you see in the movie, like they need to request generally to like have access to their money and stuff like that. And sort of a weird extension of that is white men marrying Native American women in order to sort of, you know, sort of weasel their way in to this wealth, which is what this movie really is all about.
They're gold diggers.
Yeah, white men finding ways to sort of wrap their hands around this sort of unimaginable wealth that they have no, you know, claim to, of course.
Yeah. The wolves.
Yeah, that's the drive of the movie. That's everything that sort of gets it going. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of those guys.
Yeah. And I think that one of the high level themes of this movie is trust and betrayal. For me, somebody who didn't know the story at all and was actually kind of avoiding the story, so I was going into it fresh. I didn't know if Leo and King were trustworthy because De Niro's character can speak the language. He's very integrated with the tribe and they do trust him. And he's kind of like an elder statesman to them. Like he's known all these people since their birth.
And he like donates money to schools and stuff. And
yeah. So, I mean, in the first 30 minutes of it, I mean, it becomes more and more obvious as the movie goes along that he's a wolf. But I think this movie does a really good job of kind of making it unknown for somebody who doesn't know the story.
I hear what you're saying, and it's definitely true, but I think it becomes apparent relatively quickly as soon as Robert De Niro's character starts sort of saying, like, you know, like these girls here, like, do you like girls? Like, it's good for us to like marry, you know, Indian women or
and he's
whatever.
like, do you like red or red skin or something like that?
I like red. I like white. I like blue.
Yeah, he says that pretty soon out the gate. But anyway, in the book, it's not broadcast at all. Like there's no indication about who is doing these murders really at all. They're really presented in a way that's far more objective, where I say it doesn't take too long, obviously, to get the vibe that like King is the one kind of turning the wheels here.
Yeah, definitely. But he keeps doing these things that kind of fool you in like understanding like the rites and the spiritual traditions and knowing the language and being so fully integrated into the tribe that it just makes you sometimes second guess what his motives are.
I totally agree. And he speaks the language really flawlessly and seems to genuinely care. Like when he says that he's known Molly and her sister since they were little girls and loves them, like you really you do believe it. Even, you know, knowing the whole story or whatever, like it still felt real to me. Anyway, he plays it great. To me, Robert De Niro really impressed me a lot more than Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie. I was extremely impressed.
Yeah, he's back, baby. He's not the bad grandpa anymore. He's not like trying to be de-aged Irishman. He is in his own skin as an old Robert De Niro.
I thought he was good in Irishman, though. I liked it.
He's good in it, but I just felt like it was so odd.
Yeah.
The way that they played with his age, and he just felt a little out of sorts at times, I felt. But I mean, of course, he's one of our great actors, so I mean, he's doing a great job. But I felt like this one was more like he can just kind of be himself and be in his own skin.
It was really special. I guess I wowould like to ask, like, what was everybody's impression? Like, did people like it? Like, can we go and see, like, well, did you dig it? Were you bored? Were you upset? Like, because Zach and I, as we were leaving the movie, were very careful not to say anything about what we thought at all. So I don't even know, like, Zach did sort of doze off for a second. I'm going to blow up his spot here. He did not stay awake for the entire movie. He didn't. I know that's not necessarily an indicator of like whether or not you liked it, but I'm just sort of curious where everybody falls. Are we like, hell yeah, this is a masterpiece, boring, cool? What do we think? Drew?
Dark. It was an indicator that you're in a dark movie theater for 3.5 hours. Like that's definitely going to put you to bed, I think.
You're saying you snoozed too?
I almost did. I caught myself a couple times, but I like, you know, I mean, I did feel like after the first like murder, I was like, when the next one happened, it's like, how does nobody know what's going on at this point? How is there any debate? Like this dude is like killing people, and I guess there's
like after the sisters killed, like, from the
like they know that it's like come from inside and you know, you hear that the when they were doing those town halls, they were like, they're definitely know who's killing us. Like we know who the attackers are, but it's like, we don't know exactly who it is. So we have to go through the chambers of, and maybe you could attest this, Jasmine, because you read the book, but like they probably went to try to like and obviously they hired detectives and they hired other people outside to try to like, because nobody was helping them within their own walls. And they're kind of like barricaded in their own community with all these people who are just slowly like leeching them dry and killing them off one by one. But it just kind of seemed like, how is there not more finger pointing here? How is there not more like, I don't know. And it just kind of like blew my mind that it just kind of was the same thing that happened like 5 or 6 times in a row, you know, between the sisters dying, between the guy who was the melancholic, who was super close to King that died. It just seemed like, obviously, like, look where the money's going. I mean, it kind of felt like watching Oppenheimer, where I was like, how is nobody, like, it's like maybe because I'm from the outside looking in that I get to, you know, be like, I don't understand how nobody's seeing what's happening in front. I don't know. It kind of irked me the whole way.
But I mean, isn't it a tale as old as time of like the ultra powerful people just insulating themselves from any consequence for their horrible actions? Like, you know, power and money, it keeps you insulated. Like you see throughout this movie again and again and again, him just delegating all of these tasks to people who are, you know, poorer, stupider, already criminals, like every single time. It's never him getting close at all. It's just like a whispered sort of aside to these people who are sort of undesirables, like, hey, take care of this for me and I'll give you some money. And that's just like, that's it.
Yeah.
You know,
again, I just feel like that the theme of trust, because I mean, King is in the room with them when they're saying like, we need to figure out who's doing this. Ernest is in the room. Like those people that have all been leeching off of them are all welcomed into the tribe. They've been given names. They've gone through marriage ceremonies with the tribe. And so they feel like they can trust these people. And I mean, at least that's how it's built in the movie. But I see what you're saying, Drew, that you would be, it's like they're right there. You're letting the fox into the hen house. It's like they're right there. And why can't you see that? But I think that is the thing you're supposed to question, is how do people trust other people?
Yeah, it just felt like, I guess, that like these murders would happen, and then like we would get like moments where the chief's like, here's what we would do. But I feel like there must have been more actions that were taken within the community to be like, I don't know, stop newcomers from coming in, or like, do some kind of thing to hinder the community, or like, because it's like they're at the helm, they support it, they have all the money. So I guess I don't know how it kind of went without like anything happening at the end of it. It seems like somebody got murdered, people were upset, and then like nothing happened. I don't know.
That's what makes it such a tragic story, though, is because nothing did happen, or like it did happen eventually with the FBI, but yeah.
And people did know. I mean, you see in Ernest's first time he goes into Mollie's house, she's just like, I know you want my money. Like, it's not stupid. It's not like we trusted these people and they took advantage of us. It's like they never really trusted them. It's just sort of like, well, what are you going to do? Like run them out of town on a rail? Like,
but his sister does say, or Mollie's sister does say to her, like, but Ernest, his uncle has all the money that he'll ever need. He doesn't need your money. Like, he actually loves you. And like she's kind of like, oh, maybe he does. And that's when I think their relationship starts to deepen, is when her sister says that to her. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like there is a thread of trust going on between these two different types of people in the movie. And it's a story of betrayal. And you can't have the betrayal without the trust, so it's got to be there.
Yeah, and it's a true story too. So it's like, you can't get mad at the movie for what, if it's just truthfully saying what happened.
Yeah.
Well, it upset me, and I felt upset. And I don't want to feel upset. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a difficult movie to sit with, because the beginning of the movie, it does feel a little bit, there's energy to it. It feels like a classic Scorsese movie. The music's pumping, and he's doing his old camera tricks.
Yeah.
But then like the fun just keeps getting squeezed out of the balloon as the movie goes on. And it's like, God, this is depressing. But it does start if it starts with this like kind of fun, kind of classic Scorsese energy.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of fighting with himself to like have fun with the movie, but then be like, no, we need to tell this like seriously, and no. But there's like a lot of things where, the opening just had so much energy into it, and the music that was going on, it was like a synthesis of like Native American movie and like rock and roll and like blues. It was just, that was like, so like I was like, oh, is this what we're in for? Like, is this going to be like funny and like a good time? And then like, I mean, there's moments where you kind of maybe get it, but it's not like, it's no good. It's not a ride.
Yeah.
Especially the car, the race. Like I did not expect to see that in the middle of like a weird Western. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to go to the stock race right now. Like, you got money down? Let's go. And like, everything. And it just felt like, oh yeah, this is just like a lot of money being thrown around, a lot of people having fun. It's like, and then you can see how people just get a little of the good life and want to take advantage. And I mean, that made sense to me.
Yeah, the music's really good in that scene. I mean, I love the music in this whole movie. Yes, Ronnie Robertson did the score.
Robbie Robertson?
Yeah, the guy from the band, like the songwriter for the band. He did the soundtrack for this movie.
Recently departed.
Yeah.
Departed.
And also some good old blues tracks and stuff like that, sort of laid in there too. Period music like from the 20s.
Yeah, there was another song they played.
Cool song choice. But yeah, going back to Jasmine's question, I did like this movie. I actually thought a great movie.
Thank you.
Austin, what do you think?
I absolutely marveled at this film. I was not sleepy at all. I was wrapped from first frame to last frame. I was astounded. This is a gigantic film made by a master filmmaker at the top of his craft. And I just thought it was done with such care and respect for the story and the people, and actually including the Osage in the picture and having them speak for themselves on so many different levels, like both like just through the storytelling, but also those moments when you're like in the hut with them and they are expressing themselves like from like the deepest part of their heart. To me, like what I was thinking was Scorsese is known as, our great American director, telling stories of New York and Italian families, but he's never told this story of Native Americans, of indigenous peoples of America. And to me, this felt like his first like true American film, like where he was really trying to tell the story of America from before the settlers, from whence we came, whatever. I don't know. I'm being dramatic, but honestly, I feel like I was like, I don't know. This might be better than Goodfellas.
Mhm.
I was like blown away. I think in terms of like a story, I know it's not as fun. I wouldn't say it's as fun as Goodfellas. It's not as fun as Wolf of Wall Street. But in terms of like a story told that's fact-based and done with such detail and craft, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, it does synthesize a lot of Marty's like kind of the stories he likes to tell, the themes he likes to explore. Like betrayal is seen in Departed. That's a big part of that movie. It's a big part of The Irishman. It's a big part of Mean Streets, like characters that are
Part of
friends.
all of them.
He
Mhm.
loves betrayal stories between family, between friends, and this
Yeah.
movie
Lovers.
deals with it, but also like
All
the
that.
evil of money, which is like in Wolf of Wall Street, how like
Mhm.
how money corrupts people, like that's in this movie.
Yep.
And obviously the crime drama is that's like his bread and butter, and this is a big horrible crime that people don't talk about enough because like I was in the same boat as you, Austin. I didn't know jack shit about this story, but it was kind of blowing my mind while I was watching it. It's like
Mhm.
because I knew based off the trailers, like, oh, looks like some Native Americans are gonna get murdered in this, but I wasn't expecting it to be like 30 or I don't know. It's just the scale of like what was happening at this time and this story is kind of blew my mind. I didn't know how fucked up it really was.
I don't know if Jasmine in the book they drew any parallels to what was happening to the Osage between Tulsa and the bombings of Tulsa, but like I think that the parallel that because I didn't. It's funny. I didn't. Nothing's funny, but I learned about Tulsa from Watchmen. Like I watched Watchmen. And I learned about Tulsa, and I watched Scorsese, and I learned about the murder of the Osage people, and like I don't know. It's weird. These stories would not get seen in such like if people, if directors and stuff didn't bring this to our attention a lot. Like nobody's teaching this in elementary school and stuff, and it's like things that people need to know. So yeah, I mean, for someone to make
We
a
talk about like the Watchmen HBO series.
yeah,
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 yeah.
like they like that's where I learned about the Tulsa bombings and stuff. It's like I don't
Hmm.
know. I when I saw them drawing parallels in them because they do that in the movies, they draw parallels between Tulsa and what's happening to Osage, and just like how much this has happened all over the United States in multiple different. I think it was just like kind of letting people know that it's like, hey, maybe the streets you walk are paved in blood. I mean, obviously it is, but I don't know. I thought that was important part of the movie. Trying to
Yeah, and we shouldn't overlook that Scorsese is a documentarian. Literally, has made great documentaries like the Bob Dylan documentaries, George Harrison documentary. But the Irishman, is the story of Frank Sheeran and Jimmy Hoffa, true stories. Wolf of Wall Street is about Jordan Belfort, real guy. Goodfellas is about Henry Hill, again, real guy.
Yeah, he's kind of like the master of the biopic, kind of.
Yeah. But they don't
Mhm.
feel like biopics, but yeah, they're true life stories. But of all of those films, this one tells a story that feels more important to know. You know what I mean? Like to have the knowledge of this horrible crime, I think is more more important to understand historically than the life of Henry Hill or Jordan Belfort. You know, like those are just kind of like interesting character stories, but this one kind of elevates itself in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. There's not enough movies about Native Americans, not enough stuff out there. Yeah, definitely. As Americans, we have to reckon with what we did to the indigenous people here. Well, where a lot of the power of this movie is derived from. And like you were saying, the way they portray the culture in this movie, it does feel really well studied, and it seems like he did the right things to get Osage people on board and hire Native American actors and to really represent it as accurately and as respectfully as possible. It's great.
On that note, I'd like to play this clip from the press conference after they premiered it at Cannes this year, a couple months ago, and they had with them Chief Standing Bear, who is the chief of the Osage tribe. He was on the panel with De Niro and Scorsese and Lily Gladstone and Leonardo DiCaprio. So literally having the same platform as all of these, biggest stars in the world. Let's just hear what he has to say, because I think it was interesting.
How did it feel to introduce this culture to the world around us?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you all for your interest. It being the movie, early on, I asked Mr. Scorsese, how are you going to approach this story? And he said, I'm going to tell a story about trust between Molly and Ernest, trust between the outside world and the Osage, and a betrayal of those trusts, deep betrayal. And my people suffered greatly, and to this very day, those effects are with us. But I can't say on behalf of the Osage, Marty Scorsese and his team have restored trust, and we know that trust will not be betrayed.
Oh, that's nice.
There's a follow-up. So they asked Leo kind of how he felt about examining this culture and paying it the respect it deserved. And he kind of says, we looked at it like anthropologists, like we went, as deep as we could and tried to tell this story as accurately as possible. And then they kind of turned it over to Lily Gladstone, and she says this, which I thought was very interesting.
The first thing that just stands out in my mind, not to correct anything about what you just said, but I think what we did transcended anthropological. We're artists, we're storytellers, we reach into the humanity, and Native peoples are used to having anthropologists come in curious about everything that we do. These artistic souls on this stage here cared about telling a story that pierces the veil of what society tells us we're supposed to care about and not. By focusing on these conflicted characters, who else is going to challenge people to challenge their own complicity in white supremacy and such a platform, except for this man here? Other artists are doing that work. People listen to what this one says. So turning the big lens, the most golden lens into areas where our communities, we're speaking of the 1920s Osage community. We're talking about Black Wall Street in Tulsa. We're talking about a lot in our film, and why the hell does the world not know about these things? Our communities always have. It's so central to everything about how we understand our place in the world. We also still need this, we need these allies.
Yeah. I just thought that was a really powerful statement, that it's like, we've had these people kind of come in curious and just kind of tinkering around with our culture and trying to examine it like kind of from an objective standpoint. But something like this, a document like this, really tries to explore the humanity of it and tell it through a different lens. And there's only so many people in the world who can do that with a big enough platform to actually tell the story right and to have it be listened to. So in that way, I just think it's a very profound piece of work.
Because not many other people, not just a platform, but like the money and the ambition to do it right. You know what I mean? Because to do it right takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of money, and you got to be powerful to bring all the people together to make sure everything is done respectfully, accurately, sensitively, and like interestingly. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that on a shoestring budget. You know, you
Absolutely.
just can't. He did it right, I think.
Paid off. Yeah, Jasmine, you like the movie? I don't think we got your. Did he say you like it or not?
I would say it's a towering achievement. You know what I mean? Like that's how it feels. Like people use the word masterpiece a lot when they're talking about this movie, and like, okay, but to me, yeah, it feels just like an achievement. Like, look at what you did. Like you did so much just in terms of, like we talked about, the scope of the story, just a story so huge, but making it so small, so granular, just like boiling it down to like these tiny interactions between a husband and wife that tell you the larger story of white people and indigenous people. You know what I mean? And that trust and how it's broken again and again and again and again. You know what I mean? And I think Lily Gladstone especially is so magnetic. She was incredible to watch. To watch her was really just the treat of all treats of this movie. Just to like have eyes on her is just, I don't know, it just feels like such a gift. She's really extraordinary, I think. I thought she was really extraordinary.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, like Martin Scorsese, I guess, wanted her because he saw her in this movie, Certain Women. Which, have you guys seen this movie, the Kelly Reichardt movie?
Certainly have not.
No.
It's a great movie. I'd recommend it. I've seen it. I'm a Kelly Reichardt fan, and her role in that movie was like the movie's kind of told in like different sections with like focusing on different women, and she has like a whole chunk of the story with like her and Kristen Stewart, and like she kind of has like this like unrequited love kind of thing going on with Kristen Stewart. But she's amazing in that. Shows so much with just an expression on her face. She doesn't need to say much. She just has this incredible presence with her eyes. And yeah, she's doing a lot of that. She's getting a lot of face in this movie. She's really good. She's also in Reservation Dogs, which so if you're interested in Native American culture, that's set in current day, but it's also set in Oklahoma. But that's a great TV show that everyone should watch. My dad actually turned me on to it. I don't listen to a lot of my dad's recommendations, but I listen to that one. And it's a great show.
It's one of those shows I've wanted to watch for like, feels like years now. And now, like, just because I don't have FX, it's like probably in its like 5th season or something. And I've like wanted to watch that. I haven't seen a single episode.
It just released its 3rd season, so you're not too far behind. It's on Hulu. But yeah, Lily Gladstone, she pops up in that show. She's not a main character or anything, but she's had a couple appearances on there. It's just great to see her. She's like the main representative of the Native American culture in this movie, and she's getting pitted against DiCaprio and De Niro, and she fucking owns them in every scene, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She has such a quiet, delicate demeanor throughout the whole film that's just so powerful. Like she doesn't have to say anything. Like she can just kind of look at you and like she's saying everything that you need to hear.
their relationship is just so like transactional, and it's kind of like an understanding. Like when they first meet, and it's like, was that like you call me a handsome devil? It's like, no, I called you a coyote. And he's just like, yeah, yeah. Like I think there's an understanding about what the situation is and how important it is to have like a husband and like this world and where that gets you. It's like he can get money out of the bank. He can negotiate deals for coffins and stuff for people. He's like, give me Osage prizes. Don't think you can hose me. Like, look, man, you don't work in this town. It's like, you know what the score is. Like, give me my money. I work for a living. He's like, I suck this mahogany coffin. Now get with the program. And it's just like, so like gross. Cause even though it's like, he can like, slip poison and still love her, in his heart of hearts, he knows what he's doing.
Does he love her?
He does.
That's a good question. Does he actually love her?
He whatever his version of love is in his head, that he doesn't like. I don't know. He's depicted as like he like legitimately loved her, but maybe he feared his uncle more. I don't know, because she asks him right off the bat, like, do you fear your uncle? And he's like, no, he's a nice man. He's like, he believes that, and then over time, he's just like, I don't know. I think that in his mind, part of him loved her, like whatever love is in this weird world of transactions. Like he was, his job coming to town was like, you're going to be a driver. You know what else you're going to do? You're going to marry that woman over there. And he's like, all right, hey, I'm game. And just like, this is what love is. Like, how many women has this dude ever been with? Like, who knows? Probably cheated on her quite a bit. Who knows? It's just, but like, I don't know. Comes home from war. He's just pointed in direction. It's just La La Land, man. It's just this weird carnival of so much money and all these people running around like fucking jackanapes and taking advantage of these people who are in prison, who are just in prison around them. It's like two warring factions, like one without money, who's like figuring out a way to use their political power, just being an American, to help an indigenous people who are being oppressed. And like they let the snakes into the walls because they have to, and they have to integrate and they have to assimilate.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is just like kind of about a genocide, like trying to be swept under the rug.
Yes, utterly, and like just to squeeze money out of these people. It's like be upset about it. It's like call it what it is. It's being these people being totally taken advantage of, and they literally know it, and they can't do anything about it. So they make a plea to the government. She makes a trek across the fucking country with this weird poison in her system.
Talks to the president.
Talks to the president of the United States. Fucking gets J. Edgar Hoover to make like the FBI. I didn't know that part about this at all, really. I don't know. I watched that whole movie. I didn't realize that it was like, by the way, this is the brand new FBI. It's like they use FBI like a name drop, didn't they? Like,
yeah. Well, they just call it the Bureau.
Yeah. Like,
ever heard of it?
Yeah, they don't make a big to do of the fact that this is the creation of the FBI.
If Jesse Plemons walking in, opening the door and saying, by the way, it's the FBI, and that's who Ernest was like, I guess I'm just an idiot.
But yeah, I do think it's an interesting question, or like talking about like the love between Ernest and Mollie. Like, I don't know, it seems crazy. It seems like she says she like thinks that he's attractive, but Scorsese goes out of his way to make Leo DiCaprio look the most unappealing he's ever looked in this movie. Got a horrible haircut and the bad teeth.
Yeah, but for the time, I guess he was a fucking coyote, because he's this golden coyote over there. Like, because people were going after him, and he was handsome. Everybody said he was. The ladies loved him. That was good looking for that. So even if he is like painted, that's pretty good for the middle.
I mean, you also don't see any other white men presented as being any more attractive than Leonardo DiCaprio. They're all just weaselly, like chinless, just disgusting creatures. All just like they look
great.
The worst, as I'm sure people generally did in that day, but like none of them even look handsome for that time.
Yeah,
to my mind, they're all just so unappealing.
I saw a picture of the actual Ernest, and he is kind of good looking. He looks better than Leo does, like the actual Ernest.
100%.
He's like he's got a nice jawline. It's like I could see why Mollie would go for this, but I wouldn't see why she would go for Leo because he looks like shit in this movie.
And he's lazy.
Yeah, they're
Calls
all
himself
lazy.
lazy the first thing. It's just so despicable.
Yeah, that was like maybe like one of my issues with this movie. Even though I do think it's great, I don't think it's a flawless movie. It's just that, yeah, you just cast someone like Lily Gladstone who has so much intelligence in her face. You just have a hard time thinking that she would buy this guy's bullshit because he's so dumb, and you have a hard time feeling like she would fall in love with this man.
I agree.
I get him
Yeah.
falling for her, but I don't see that the other way, like how that happened.
I think it's hard to say because the kind of final, and again, we are spoiling this, but one of the final questions posed to Ernest by Molly is, what do you do for me? What have you ever done for me? And I mean, clearly it is nothing. It is absolutely just been a complete curse on her and her whole family. But yeah, so it is very hard to understand why somebody, like you said, Zach, who seems so intelligent and so distrusting of white men, of people like Ernest, but she clearly has some kind of love for King. Is the thing, is like she has some sort of trust for Robert De Niro's character. And I think that it's in that context that she's like, well, if he's his uncle, or if King is Ernest's uncle, then he must be a good egg.
I mean, it's also very, maybe not hit on hard enough how still in this time, as a woman and her father isn't there anymore, like as a woman, you still, can't really do for yourself. You can't do anything, no matter how much money you have. So it's sort of like you kind of need to attach yourself to some man, ideally a white man, because the white man who's your husband can go into the bank and like have access to all the money and buy land and do whatever. And you can't really do that. Like you can't execute your desires. You can't execute your will. So you do need to have that as like an extension of yourself, or else your power is a little bit
Limited.
impotent. Yeah. So I think there's I saw a lot of that in their initial her initial calculations or whatever. Like I understood that to be a part of it for her, because she is so upfront about like, hey man, I know what you want, and I think we can work it out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, doesn't she classify herself as impudent at some point, or what's that term she uses?
Incompetent, which is like that's the designation that was often given to Osage women, just sort of assigned to them as like, you've been deemed incompetent, you can't execute your own finances, you need to come talk to me. Like that's why whenever she talks to the banker or that guy, she needs to state her case number, and she needs to say that she's been designated that way, and so she needs to come to him to deal with these sort of affairs, and that kind of designation or that classification could be dealt for any number of bullshit reasons, of course. And it was slapped on almost any woman or people with any number of weird sort of problems, so that they couldn't have access to their money freely. So that's why she said that.
Yeah, that clears it up.
Awful.
Yeah, it is still hard to believe that she would love this guy, though.
I guess it's not love. It was transactional, and I think she just chose him. It's like he'll do. And
yeah, and he's like insistent. He seems pretty infatuated.
I think that's the one thing that we're like failing to see about relationships back then, is just that it's like it was not. It was more about the necessity for survival than anything else. And functioning in this world, this is like the best choice for her. And she thought it would protect her, and it was the opposite.
She suffers so much.
So much. Can you believe
her whole family
poisoned?
dies and poisoned.
She's poisoned the whole time. That shit was crazy, y'all. That shit was crazy.
Her eyes were so just like, oh God, you look awful, honey. Please stop taking the sauce. Get him away from you.
Her face when like her sister's like getting like her head like lobotomized like on the site.
Yeah, it's like, get her away from this sign. What are you people doing to this woman?
There's a couple of moments of serious Scorsese stomach churning violence. He always likes to dish up a couple in all of his movies, just like a complete like cold water being thrown on you, just like stuff you kind of can't believe you're seeing. And there's not a lot of it in this movie, but there are a couple moments, of course, where it's just like you can't even, you got to look away.
Yeah.
The back of the
so
one
intense.
sister's head.
Yeah, after the dynamite explosion. Yeah, the worst ones are to her family, so you just really feel for her and in like the just awful, gruesome way that her family is just being picked off all around her.
I mean, I think we all can agree that the real most upsetting violence in this movie is Robert De Niro spanking Leonardo DiCaprio with the paddle.
Oh my God. I averted my eyes.
I could not believe what I was seeing in that moment. Can you believe that happened in this movie?
Elbows on the table, son.
Like this.
Got paddled by Robert De Niro.
And did you notice that the paddle was broken in his hand? Like, I wonder if that was like an accident on the set. Like he actually hit him so hard that he broke the paddle, because if you look closely, like the paddle is like splintered.
Oh, that's amazing.
And De Niro was so annoyed with his improv that he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna give it to you, buddy."
Yeah, again.
That shit was insane.
Or like, I don't know if we should just shout out like some other scenes that we liked. I feel like maybe it's too late to do a plot bop at this point. We've kind of covered it.
I love Lizzie Q. Lizzie Q's awesome. I like her owl. Her premonition, the owl. People should have listened more to the owl.
I love the owl too.
Owl was good. And I mean, it was just like, get the fuck out. Like, girl, get the fuck out.
When Molly sees the owl, and then like the owl's like got this he's all puffed up and he's got the attitude, and he's like kind of runs up on her.
Get out of bed. Get the fuck out of this house.
Like, you're gonna die if you stay here. Get the fuck out. I'm the owl that fucking knows shit.
When do you ever see an owl do this, your mom? Like Lizzie Q, also just great. I love Lizzie Q. Great actress.
Wait, who's Lizzie Q?
She is the mother.
Molly.
Yeah. The mother who's they're like combing her hair. Yeah.
I love the wedding scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
The wedding scene was so cool. Robert De Niro, actually, to me, I think he sounded great speaking Osage. Usually when people are speaking a language that is not native to them, they have very weird accent and it sounds horrible and kind of embarrassing. To me, obviously, I don't speak the language, but it sounded to me not like
I trust
Robert De Niro trying to speak a language that wasn't his. It really did. I was impressed with that part of the performance, as well as the amazing outfits during the wedding scene and throughout the whole film. Actually, the costumes, for me, I mean, that's sort of my deal or whatever. I always have my eye on costumes and set decoration more than almost anything else. And I was grabbing my face with delight at a lot of the clothes, and a lot of the decorations and the homes were just so cool, so beautiful. I loved it. So
yeah,
opulent.
pretty much every outfit that Lily Gladstone was wearing was just like on point. I think that wedding, what she wore at the wedding was really cool. Almost looked like a general's, like kind of, I don't know. It was really
beautiful,
cool.
like blankets that she's covered in throughout the film. Yeah, Jasmine, I feel like being a fashionista, you would have a better way of detailing the fashion in this film. So can you talk like what is it about the fashion and the costumes that like stuck out to you? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious.
It's a period that I like a lot anyway. I mean, the costumes that I liked especially were actually Anna's, her sister, who's sort of the wild child.
Clapper girl.
I thought she was she was especially beautiful and alluring, and her clothes were so cool, and she was the most flashy. And so I loved to see her clothes, because those are the kinds of clothes that I have like handled and dealt with and sold and seen, like flapper dresses from the 20s. I've seen plenty, but to see new versions of them, like obviously, reproductions, to see the colors so vivid and beautifully done and on like a living, breathing woman out in the world or whatever. Like I'm used to sort of seeing them like very carefully handled, on a dress form, and you take their picture and stuff like that. And seeing these kinds of clothes that I usually handle so delicately, out doing their thing in the world, just like riding around and being raucous and getting drunk and falling out of cars and all that stuff. It's just cool. And I think the actress who plays Anna is also really beautiful and really cool, very alluring. As I said, I really liked her a lot. I was super into her.
Sarah Jade Myers is her name.
Like, she just busts out a pistol and
yeah, like there's like she's gonna shoot somebody someday. Like there's like all these stores of her like just like grabbing a gun out of her purse and just shooting at people randomly. Yeah, I would say my favorite look in the movie is when De Niro rolls up in the Auga car with the Montgomery Burns goggles.
Yep, loved it.
Dude, those goggles are just incredible. That whole look is amazing.
They killed me.
So
good.
So amazing.
Wait, so guys, when are we going to talk about it? And you know what I'm talking about. Austin, when are we going to talk about it?
It is the full circle moment for this season 1 podcast, which I call the season of the whale.
Yeah, officially.
We're going to talk about the whale in the room.
Yeah, let's address the whale in the room.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah, I forgot that he was in this movie. And then Drew looked over at me and went, "Be afraid. Be very afraid." And I was like, oh shit, I totally forgot. Brendan Fraser is in this fucking movie. Fraser. Still can't get his damn name right.
Still get it wrong.
I wish I had a scan of your brain the minute you realized or remembered that Brendan Fraser was in this movie.
Yeah.
Would have been explosions, look like fireworks.
Well,
Yeah.
he
It was amazing.
explodes on screen.
He comes in hot.
He comes in very hot.
He was fine.
Yeah. Cue the biggest flute in the world.
Because I have an objection.
Yeah.
Be afraid.
I liked it just because we've been talking about Brendan so much this year, but it does feel like he's kind of coming from a different movie entirely almost.
Yeah, he was the only moment that really took me out, but I think it's also our fault just because we have so much investment in this actor right now. But he did feel like he felt like he was a little over the top. It's like it's the Renaissance. It's I'm in a Scorsese movie now. Like I really gotta bring it. And yeah, the way that he like his first line is he lifts up in the courtroom drama, like, and they do this like what they kind of do in The Whale, where it's like this tilt up, like worm's eye view of him, like just towering over you and like yelling and with his finger up, and it was very much like I want to do one thing right. Like
no, because he goes, "It's been 2 months, we haven't seen," and I was like, "Oh my god!" A 3 and a 4. Be afraid, man. I'm sorry, but it's very true.
It was a welcome addition. It was a little distracting, but
you dumb boy.
Well, that was a little bit before that is when I was falling asleep, was during the Leo like interrogation stuff with the FBI. Like that's when my eyelids were getting real heavy and I was starting to lose consciousness, and Jasmine jostled me awake, and I was like, bring in the whale. And as soon as he came on, I was fully awake. So like I think maybe that's like what he's in there to do. Like he's gonna be loud, he's gonna wake up the audience, like, hey, we're in the final act of the movie. Wake up, Brendan's here. and it worked. It worked on me. I stayed awake for the rest of the movie, and I never went to the bathroom, but I did doze off a little bit.
And I thought that he was a good compliment to Lithgow. I thought him and Lithgow like have a similar demeanor with each other. They're kind of like erudite and like articulating their words. And it was
very
like,
theatrical.
Very
theatrical.
So I thought they played off each other pretty well. And God, that shot when they bring Ernest into like that back room to tell him that he cannot testify, and everyone is just like cloaked in this like these shadows, and like they just look silver, and you know Brendan's in the back with his like hands on the chair. He's like, sit down, son. Like that shot is remarkable. It's like a Renaissance painting. It's just beautiful shot.
Yeah, there's also that shot of those guys covered in oil.
Yeah,
that's a great shot.
That shit was crazy.
Horrifying.
That scene you were talking about, Austin, when like I think that's like when like Leo's characters found the wolves have turned. This is what it looks like when a wolf looks at you. Like these are not your friends right now, so they're just deciding what to do with you. So,
yeah, that's in the trailer. You hear him say like, "Can you find the wolves in this picture?" When they show that shot, and it's like they're all fucking wolves. But Jasmine, there was another big drop in this movie. I mean, do you want to talk about that?
We're talking about the last scene?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So wild with Jack White.
Yes. Your boy.
My boy. I would have never in a million years.
That was a shock to me. I was like, oh my God, this movie was made for Jasmine.
He did great.
Yeah.
He did great. I mean, it's not his first movie. He was also in Cold Mountain, which he was pretty fucking good in. You remember that movie, Cold Mountain?
Yeah. That's a Mama Donna classic.
He was good. That final scene is so incredible.
Yeah.
That took the movie to a level that I did not anticipate. The turnaround. So cool, so special.
Yeah. What do we think of that choice for the ending? Because I thought it was really, the more I think about it, the more I like it, how this was just turned into some radio show story. Some guys could do cheap sound effects too and get a couple people to tune in. It's like, that's not what they were trying to do, like undermine the story, or, they were really trying to not tell it for like any theatrical value. It's like people need to know that this happened, it's like, I feel like with movies like this too, you like lose money on them, it's like, maybe, I guess a lot of people are going to see it because it's Scorsese, but like, I don't feel like they're doing this just to get for money. I think it's just like Martin's way of saying how important it is to tell this story, and not think of it as like a kind of cheap.
It's not just like the afterthought, the like little ending title cards that they could have been. You give it the full production value that it deserves.
I think it's like in like the 50s or something, or like, I don't know. It's set many years after the events
or like
of the movie.
It's actually the late 30s that they did this, which is a real thing that was on the radio. It's
like a radio play.
Yeah. Martin Scorsese didn't actually like come out in the radio play in the 30s, but
Yeah, no, it's like a very like Prairie Home Companion style, like true crime radio program with all the little like sound effects and a couple actors on stage doing multiple different voices.
Jack White is one.
He does a racist Native American accent at one point. It's pretty funny.
Yup. When I think about that final scene, the word that is really like the front of my mind is just confidence. Like the confidence of Martin Scorsese to end it that way is like, it kind of makes you sit back in your seat and just be like, I didn't know that that's what this needed. I didn't know that that's how this needed to end, but I think it is.
Yeah, and especially how Martin actually comes out. He puts himself in the movie
so crazy
to read Mollie's obituary, which is incredibly moving, even though it's like in the framework of a really silly kind of scene with like goofy sound effects. but then like suddenly, I don't know, it just fucking, it's a big dick move by Marty, but it totally worked in my view.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it just put a exclamation point at the end of this film, how much care and how much this film means to the man and how he's taking responsibility for the story. He's the only one who feels like he can actually express, the obituary of the woman who this story is about, essentially, and to kind of put it on his own shoulders. And I don't know if you guys had it too, but there was an opening moment where Martin's like, "Thank you for coming to Killers of the Flower Moon." Did you guys get that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, like, you just reiterating like how much care and time he put into it. And you can see it in his face on that panel that at Cannes earlier this year. Like, he just has tears in his eyes the entire time he's talking, because he's this it means so much to him. So I thought that it was, really, he obviously felt like it was an essential thing to do. He was owning it.
Yeah, the way he says that last line after he reads the obituary, there's no mention of the murders. Like you could just feel like, oh, the sadness in his eyes and his voice when he says it, and it's like, fuck, man.
Yeah, he cares a lot.
But it is interesting because this movie is called Killers of the Flower Moon, and it really is about the killers. It's from the perspective of Leo and the De Niro's character more than anything. So he knows that he's not Native American, and he knows that he can't like truly tell like just from Mollie's perspective. Like, he has to tell it from this other perspective of the killers, kind of. And I mean, some people might be like, "Oh, you're making Leo too empathetic or something," but I don't know. I just think it's the most interesting way to tell this story, kind of. I don't know what you guys think about that, but it was something I was thinking about today.
Well, yeah, just the mental gymnastics you have to do to be Ernest, and to do just, okay, insulin time. All right, let's go here. You murder him, break. And just like awful. Just terrible.
Yeah. And the way he offloads the duties to like other people, and like, because he does, he feels guilty, and that's why he doesn't do the shit himself. He pawns it off on anyone else he possibly can, but he's still being despicable, but he's just trying to compartmentalize it, or I don't know. It is kind of like an Oppenheimer thing, like, oh, he's you don't know exactly what's going on in his head.
Except he's an idiot.
Yes. Again, like these two movies that came out, I had no idea this was going on. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're supposed to believe that Oppenheimer didn't know that this bomb was going to kill people, and that this guy didn't know all this insulin he was putting people, like syringing people, who was going to kill his wife. Like, it just like, I don't know. It's like weird to have like some kind of ambiguity about it, when it's just like, no, he was trying to murder. I think like in his mind, he did love her, but I think I don't know. He just like knew he was killing her and just kind of kept going with it, and knew what he was getting into.
It does remind me of another film with family film, the Phantom Thread, the poisoning lovers, but he also was murdering her family, which that's a step too far, in my opinion. You could do some light poisoning with your partner, but once you start killing their sisters, and that's
consensual poisoning.
Yeah, consensual poisoning is okay.
Yeah, I think that the comparison to Oppenheimer, Drew and I were talking about it directly after the film, because, kind of like Oppenheimer, which is also a 3-hour movie, the last third of the movie basically is a courtroom drama, but it has the stakes are so much higher, and the reasoning for the trial is so much more earned within the film, that like I wanted to see the trial. I want to see how these guys are going to defend themselves or not defend themselves, and I want to get to the bottom of the murder. But like, whereas Oppenheimer, it just felt like a complete left turn to it. Also, Scorsese is doing so much justice to the injustices as this reign of terror, as they call it, like on these people. Like he shows it in graphic detail. And that was what was missing from Oppenheimer too. It's like, you can't just like, I feel like if Nolan was to do this, he would have just talked about how like King's mind, like the you know, the intellectual like chess that he's doing to like manipulate all these people. He would just like be going more into that aspect of it. But it's like, no, this is story about how people were murdered methodically, and you have to tell that part of the story.
Yeah, it was interesting how like a lot of the movie you think like, oh, you're not even going to show the murder of her one sister who was like the like, you know, the fun flapper one, but then like kind of late into the movie, like you do get that flashback of seeing like how she was murdered and just how gross it was, like the one guy like setting her up while she's drunk, and he's not afraid to show these murders, and he's not showing them glamorously at all. He's just like a kind of like a wide shot, you know. It's just like, this is a murder. I'm not gonna make it look sexy or anything. It's gross.
And it's so at the foreground of everything. It's just like all these men you see are cowards, like,
and idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still almost fucked up that shot. Like he almost shot him in the face when he did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that funny scene with De Niro and DiCaprio where he's like, talk about he shot him in the back of the head. They're supposed to make it look like a suicide. And like they're just yelling each other about the semantics of shooting someone in the back of the head or the front.
Yeah, and not leaving the gun, and then he brings the gun to him. Like,
oh my God. There are a couple parts where you do have to laugh, like the scene with that one guy who was talking about adopting those two native children. It's like, so like if they, you know, if I adopted them and then they died, would I get their money? It's like, are you saying you're going to do that? And he's like, not if I won't get the money.
Yeah, brutal.
And all of them committing insurance fraud or doing like weird ways to just extort money out of the government and through insurance companies and whatever else they can get their hands on. Because it was just like this gold rush town where people were just like, I'm just gonna like act, you know, like I care about these people and take as much I can from them.
Oh, I feel like we could talk another 3 hours about this movie. It's just so deep. I feel like I need to see it again.
And I want to see it again too.
What was your favorite scene?
I can't stop thinking about my gut burst. Just like the way that he delivers that line.
First scene is good. The first scene is good, where they first meet each other and they're kind of talking. What kind of girls you like? Leo admits to being a chubby chaser. Says he likes them heavy.
Yeah.
Like, okay. All right.
I like Leo. I think Leo's good.
I think he's miscast at the end of the day, but
who would you rather cast? Would you rather put Plemons in there?
Maybe. I don't know. I think ultimately Leonardo DiCaprio is he's sort of a distracting presence, I think, as a lead in most movies, with the exception of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because that character is commenting on Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. I feel like most of the time, with a couple exceptions, there's just too much of his celebrity overshadowing the character I'm supposed to believe he is. I feel like he never disappears quite enough.
What about Wolf of Wall Street? He's great in that.
It's great in Departed.
Well,
Gangs of New York is your favorite.
But I don't like it because of Leonardo DiCaprio. Fucking Daniel Day-Lewis is like hitting dingers. Fucking 3 hours.
Hitting dingers on the DDL.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
DDL dingers.
Leo can GTFO out of this movie and it would be better, but
well, it's interesting, the original, or like the actual Ernest, he's like in his 20s or something at the time of the story, and Leo is like in his 40s, so like he's just playing someone that should be a lot younger because he like just got back from World War I, you know.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of weird casting there, but I don't know. I think he did a good job in this movie. I like his performance. I think they made him a little too ugly But
My issue is not so much with his performance. My issue, it really is with just him as an actor and just sort of some fundamental things about himself that he can't lose. Like, I think he's doing a good job. It's just
too much baggage there.
Yeah, just a little bit too much baggage, I think. And we didn't even talk about any of the sort of like environmental like ideas or, comments with regard to, just finding oil, and like we're talking about betrayal, talking about trust, and talking about being, stewards of the land, and how do we handle that? How do you tangle with that? And like that's a betrayal as well. Like you look across the land and you see all these oil derricks and all the stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's not, a super theme of the movie. It's not really hit on, but Martin Scorsese was fucking thinking about that too.
Yeah. I mean, you have that incredible landscape shot that where it's just expanding over the land and you see like how far the derricks go. It's very complicated.
Very. But we love it.
Do we like Plemons? Can we talk about Plemons?
Plemons was great.
I love Plemons. I love when he just shows up at Leo's doorstep. He's like, "I'm coming here to find out them murders." Like, what about him? Who's doing them?
First thing ever uttered by the FBI.
Yeah, that's the FBI's whole deal.
You got the impression they knew from the get-go exactly who it was, and it gave me the impression that they weren't really hiding it that well. I mean, it didn't seem like the most sophisticated murders, it just seemed like they knew they could get away with it. They went ahead and did it.
Yeah, well, yeah, they say it at the beginning, they're like, this person was murdered, no investigation. Like, there was just like, if anybody investigated, like, they could have figured it out because they weren't covering their tracks well because they're idiots. But there just literally was no investigation because it was corrupt from the whole top down.
Yeah, and they also said, like, if they did get caught for killing, it's like, what are you going to do? It's a American killing in Indian. What difference does it make? And it was they like, so they knew they were going to get away with all of it.
I loved how they showed King, how he covered his tracks by like making these setups. Like the people who were involved with the murders, he was saying like, "Oh, you should go rob this store," and then telling the store owner that someone's going to come rob them, and so that he just like finds these creative ways to like off these people that could lead to him. I thought that was very interesting, clever, and just showed the kind of the conniving, dastardly ways of this guy, like
cold-blooded.
I will pose this question. Do you guys think it's too long? Because it's like 3.5 hours long. I was like, maybe it could be trimmed down a little bit. But maybe it was just because I was sleepy.
That's a no from me.
That's a no from me too. I don't know what you cut.
Yeah, what do you cut?
Yeah, I mean, there's just like a lot of time of just her being poisoned with diabetes. That was kind of a drag.
Well, that's true. Definitely a drag.
Yeah,
you got to see the slow poisoning. I mean, they even like say it's like, we're going to slow her down. We're going to slow it down. It's like, feel like in a way that's like the hint that it's not, we're not going to be moving at a clip like we were in the beginning.
And you need to come back to it because when I was thinking, is it too long? What would I cut? I thought about those scenes too, because there are a lot of them, but every time it's different. You see her get sicker and you see his reaction to her change. You see him sort of fill with regret and feel worse and worse as he sees her get sicker. And then you're sort of like, is he going to keep doing this? And then he continues to do it. It is different every time. It's not the same scene, like she changes and he changes every time. And you see him realize what he's doing, but keep doing it anyway. Whereas before you don't really think he knows quite what he's doing.
Yeah.
And the repetitive nature of it too just kind of drives home how awful, these murders were. I don't think it would be as impactful if you just saw it like once or twice. Like, it's the fact that you keep coming back to it.
And it's like he could have stopped so many times. It could have stopped at any point when he sees what's happening, and it all could have been okay. Like, you see, he has so many opportunities to just not do it. And he even drank some of the poison himself a little bit at one point, that I was like, what's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I sort of understood it to be like, to maybe feel a little bit what she was feeling. That was sort of an interesting little moment in a scene where he makes himself sick.
Yeah, he's like trying to see things for like how fucked up is what I'm doing her actually is, like, because he does have that love for her. Like, he doesn't want to make her suffer, but he just feels he has to, and he's being manipulated so thoroughly by De Niro's character. Yeah, it's a very interesting story. I'm glad Marty made it.
I wouldn't cut it.
Yeah. I just wanted to pose the question.
I feel like we saw a lot of like Molly and Ernest's relationship, and not a whole lot of what was going on around in the town when all this shit was happening. I feel like it would be more interesting to see like what happened, like as a result of like each murder, like who directly affected what family members went out. I don't know if they just didn't want to dive into that. I don't know. It just felt like that it was so focused on the family that it just seemed like one murder after another, one tragic thing after, and then in between that, it was just them implementing treatments of this insulin. Just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot going on with the town.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's so long, but you do kind of want more. Like, I don't know. There's like, there's every character in it. It's so interesting. And they like cast weird actors. Like, they cast they cast three musicians. They cast Jack White, then they cast Sturgill Simpson and Jason Isbell, who are like two modern country stars, which I thought was interesting. I thought Jason Isbell did a really good job. I don't know. There's just so many interesting performances all throughout this movie. So many cool moments. Like, you do kind of,
You want to live in the world a little bit.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been even longer. Really, like, it could have been like a whole like 6 episode like fucking limited series. Like, there's just so much to explore with this story. But yeah, it's great. The more I think about it, the more I like it, really.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that was coming out as Scorsese started doing promotions for this film was him talking about how he really feels like he understands what he can do with film now that he's like at the end of his life. And I feel like the length of the film is something that really sticks in his craw, because people keep giving him so much shit about like how long his movies are. And he's like, look, plays are 3 hours. You sit on your couch for 5 hours watching reality shows. All these Marvel movies are like 5 hours long. Can you just respect my craft as like a master filmmaker and let me fucking cook over here? Like, just like, I feel like it's kind of annoying, and not that I think that you're being annoying asking the question, but I think it's a little like, why wouldn't we want Martin Scorsese to make 3.5 hour films? Like, please do, sir. Like, please. Like, you are gifting us with every minute of this. It's like, please,
Frame.
make as long of a movie as you want, and especially that this might be one of his last films. I mean, like, we should be so grateful that we can like go see a new Martin Scorsese film in theaters right now. It's a gift.
I do feel like they should bring back the intermission, though.
Yes.
For a movie like this.
That would have been awesome.
That's fine.
Me and Caleb, just this past weekend, saw The Thing in 35 millimeter, and there was an intermission, and it was great. You know, you get a chance to stretch your legs, get some more popcorn, take a piss break.
Yeah.
And definitely, if your movie's pushing 3 hours, I feel like an intermission is warranted.
I agree.
How long is a typical intermission?
10 min?
10 min, 15 min.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I would have
Yeah.
loved it, and I don't think I would have had an issue of falling asleep a little bit if I had a little intermission. But
When I saw Hateful Eight, there was an intermission. When I saw RRR, there was an intermission, and it was very welcomed.
yeah, bring it back.
But although the bathroom line was so long that
Right.
the movie started again, and I
Right.
was still waiting in line for the bathroom. But well, maybe that's a good
We loved
segue into our intermission. That's what we'll call the end of this season. Just think of it as a little intermission. Just go reflect on all the things that we've given you here in our family in the last year.
But if nobody signs up for the Patreon, maybe we will never come back from this intermission.
Yeah, give us $5 a month, or you're never hearing from us again. All right,
That's a threat.
Well, thank you guys.
Well, thank you. I can't do it without the family.
Oh wait, I have one more Killers of the Flower Moon thing. I watched like an interview with the author of the book. I can't remember his name right now. Jasmine, remember the name of the author?
David Gran.
David Gran. And I just thought he had a striking resemblance to George Costanza. I'm gonna send a picture in the chat.
I see it. Yes.
Maybe we could throw this on Instagram.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. It's like a John Lovitz, George Costanza mashup. There's a lot of Lovitz in there, too.
It looks like if AI was asked to make real George Costanza right now or something. I don't know.
It's like Costanza is afraid. George is afraid.
It's
fucking nerd.
Yeah. What do you say? The movie's better than the book, Jasmine?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, why not?
Say whatever you want.
Why not?
Yeah, whatever.
Martin Scorsese didn't write the book. He directed the movie.
Touche.
But yeah, I do think it's better. I think you don't miss anything, really. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that needs to be taken from the book is there, adding in a lot more human interest and beautiful visuals that really stick with you.
Oh yeah. One visual I wanted to point out is when Molly's mother is passing away, and then like you kind of get into like that like POV of like her like seeing like her ancestors like take her away to like walk her off to like the higher plane of death or whatever. Like that's just like a beautiful moment that Marty just throws in there.
And that final shot too, that overhead shot where you see
the drum circle.
Yeah, and you see everybody circling, so many colors and just so beautiful. You get to see like the whole tribe. You feel like you see the whole picture. It's magnificent.
It just felt like it wasn't part of the movie at all. It was just like, here's the tribe as it exists today. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
I hope so, because it was endured so much. And it's like,
these aren't just people who existed. They're people who exist.
Like, is it still Osage land out in
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Jasmine, your boyfriend has the Native American heritage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walker.
Not Osage, but yes.
Yeah. You just don't see very much Native American representation at all out in the world. It's just it's sad. It's crazy. I don't know how else to say it, but
yeah, it's awful. But thankfully we have this document now to remind us of what was taken from them. And at least we have some people out there that are paying their respects in one way or the other.
And I think this movie is going to be a huge hit, and I think it's going to get a lot of Oscar nominations.
Let's hope so.
I feel very confident.
Austin, is this your favorite of the year?
Currently, yes, but I just saw Poor Things too, and I'm dying to talk to you guys about it, but it's up there too.
Yeah.
It's my 2 5-star films of the year right now. This one and Poor Things. Yeah, they're both just remarkable films, but in very, very different ways. Like Poor Things is doing the kind of stuff that I usually am drawn to in films, the surrealistic aspects of it. But this one is just so excellently crafted, and it's hard to say that something else beat it.
Final thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon?
I was so happy to talk about it with my family. A movie very much centered around family.
It's funny you say that because we love the movies.
Mm.
And we love our family. Wait, Drew, how would you rank the movies you've covered on this podcast?
Oh, man.
You got Killers, you got Mario, you got The Whale. Throw in Mission Impossible in there because you appeared on that episode a little bit too.
The Whale. What are you talking about? Episode 1, The Whale.
That's what I love to hear.
The Whale's the best.
Season of the Whale.
Best part of my favorite scene in Killers of the Flower Moon was when Brendan Fraser exploded onto the scene. That's it. Curtain drops, bing, bing, boom. You got Brendan Fraser. I love me some B. Frasier. No, this movie's fantastic, and I really did enjoy it. I didn't care how long it was. I didn't care how long Irishman was. But the man make it. I do feel like there was some parts of it that I just couldn't believe, but I think I just have to reconcile with what actually happened because he was just trying to tell the story as it was. And Jasmine, as you've read the book, I imagine you can say with certainty that this does a pretty damn good job of telling the story.
Yep.
And I trust Jasmine. She's pretty smart, so I'll take her word for it.
Well said.
Great film. Great film. Love watching it.
And we love Marty. He's a true treasure.
I just want to say I thank you guys for having me on so often. I love coming on here and talking to y'all. I love the movies. Going to movies with my brother. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
We got in the car. We smoked some Killer Moonflower. Fucking
yeah. Don't forget, Drew was on the Oppenheimer episode. He was on the Barbie episode. He's in Mission Impossible. He was Boy and the Heron. A lot of Drew drops.
He's our ace in the hole whenever we're struggling. Let's call up Drew.
Yeah, man. You need a guy who's pretty sleep deprived and has a headache. I'm your man.
All right. Well, I guess we'll do the final send off. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also follow us on social media at Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Film with Family.
And if you'd like us to continue this podcast, please send us an email at filmwithfamilypodcast@gmail.com and let us know how much you love the movies. And
what was your favorite episode of season 1?
Ooh. And why was it Fast X?
Yeah, why was it Fast X with Jasmine?
And subscribe to the Patreon. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Come on.
And
this yet. Go get it.
Yes, please subscribe to the Patreon. We will give you some sort of benefit when we figure that out. But patreon.com/filmwithfamily. Give us $5 a month just because you love us.
Also, you got to follow us on Letterboxd, Zachary's wife, Claire, and Austin C. Pruitt, our handles. See what movies we're watching in real time.
Zach, I love my cousins. I love my brother. I love my family. I love the movies, and I love that we did this podcast. I'm so proud of everything that we've done here, and let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's been fun.
The best.
I like to complain that it's ruining my life, but in all honesty, it's really enriched my life to do this podcast, and it's been a fun way to engage with all of our family members and even friends now. Had a lot of fun talking to your buddy Alex and Justin Fink and
Ashton and Wes.
Yeah, it's been great. And
Alexandra.
We got access to the film festival.
Gotta love it.
Honestly, I don't care if anybody listens to it. This is a family archive. One day our children's children and our ancestors will be looking back and saying, this was my family and they loved movies.
Yeah. The only regret is that we didn't start it earlier so we could have got Grandpa on. That sorry to make a little bummer there, but
Hey, what do you think Grandpa would pick? What movie do you think Grandpa would pick?
Lawrence of Arabia.
Arabia, for sure.
yeah, I feel like that gets cited by people as like Grandpa loved that movie.
And he did make an appearance on the podcast. We had him on the Oppenheimer podcast. We unearthed some very relevant audio for that one.
Just kidding. He would have gone to see Fast X with us, and he would have talked about Fast X.
In
Could you imagine? Could you imagine his review?
4DX. Grandpa and 4DX. Hell yeah.
What a review it would have been.
It would have been like, oh, okay.
It's trying to kill me.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I know we keep circling the drain here, but
we don't want it to end.
Oh.
Well, I really do think that partially, maybe subconsciously, the reason why I wanted to do this and start recording people was after Grandpa died and we started reviewing all that footage that we had. It was just such a blessing to have these like archived conversations. And I was like, I want to do that with everybody.
It's a good point, we gotta get everybody on the record.
All right, guys.
Love you.
Peace.
Yeah.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
See you next year.